Hello everyone, welcome back to Yasmin's Gaming with a brand new Let's Play. A couple good things to celebrate. It's finally the new year. I figured out my audio issues. Inzoi got some pretty cool updates, and I finally watched Baby Driver. Now why am I mentioning that? Well, that's because this gameplay is going to be inspired by Baby Driver. In that movie, we follow a guy who's basically a getaway driver for a crime ring in order to pay off debt, and he's helping his aging father or grandfather, I believe, adoptive grandfather. With the latest Inzoi update, the crime system in this game has been vastly expanded on. So I figured, what if we did a similar storyline to Baby Driver? In this gameplay, we're going to be following Janice, who's the grandmother and sole guardian of Miles, her grandson. They recently had a health issue that put them in debt, and Miles is going to go down the crime route to help pay for all of those bills and get him and his grandmother out of this super sad situation. Now, in this episode 0, we're just going to review the background of all the main characters, where they will be living, as well as some Inzoi cheats to help flesh out our story. So let's jump right in. Alright, so let's jump right in. This is going to be our first character. This is Janice Carter. She's going to be playing the grandmother. She, adorable and old. She recently had some ailments where she had to get surgery and all of that. Here are all her outfits. I had her, dressed very grandmotherly. However, I wanted to make sure she just wasn't too blinged out or anything, because they will kind of be starting in a little bit of squalor due to their debt. But at the same time, I couldn't help but, give her a little bit of old inherited jewelry. So for Janice, she is a senior. For her traits and characteristics, I have her as a pacifist. She is gentle and just. She likes to avoid conflict and keeping the peace. She values harmony and builds relationship with warmth and care. I picked this for her because I wanted to have her constantly be caring of Miles, who we'll meet, and always wanting to make sure he's doing things for the justice purposes and not more than that, even though her grandson is just trying to take care of her. I have her characteristics as a neat freak. I was thinking originally to do a bookworm, but I think I'm gonna have her I'm gonna actually change bookworm to fitness enthusiast. After she just had some health issues, she is now going to try to take care of her body because she doesn't want to be back in those bills again. Who would want that? I feel like a lot of people, whenever you have a health scare, you make a vow to do better. So let's have her go through that. And a neat freak, just wanting to clean and cook and make sure everything's clean and tidy and livable. So that's her profile now. Her ambition is a cleanliness champion. I have her as this because, again, her son's going to be out and about, so she's going to want to constantly clean and make sure everything, that their tiny area of living is always perfect. And her desired life is going to be a life of harmony. It goes well with the pacifist trait, and she's going to enjoy things like jogging and animals and plants, just living in harmony. I mean, she is kind of getting up there in age, so we're not going to make her do anything too strenuous. So this is the family tree. So we have Janice here, who we just reviewed, and below her we have her son, Jack Carter, and Evelyn Carter. These are going to be the parents to Miles Carter, who's going to be our main protagonist in this story. The reason why I created Jack and Evelyn is just for the sake of the family tree, so we're not going to really go into them. Once we start playing, I'm going to probably nix them so that we do get the trait of mourning. However, they won't really be in this storyline, but I did want to make sure that, one, I could connect Miles and Janice as grandma and grandson. However, we won't need them, so I'm not going to go too deep into them. But yes, Jack Carter, Evelyn Carter, the parents to Miles Carter. So let's take a look at Miles. This is Miles Carter. He's going to be our protagonist in this story. I didn't want to rough him up too much. He's not in that system that much. I wanted it to kind of give that same feeling of like, he looks like you can trust him. However, you kind of can't. Not with those eyes. So, this is Miles. Right after high school, his parents passed away, and now he is taking care of his grandmother, who he does have a good relationship with. However, because of the recent health issues, they are in debt, and he needs to make money quick because she can't work. And doing small part time jobs, he doesn't have a degree, that's going to add up. So, he will be going into that life of crime journey. So for traits and characteristics, I have him as a rule breaker. I believe this is a newer one since the update, but with the rule breaker, he is happiest, or he shines brightest when he's stirring up chaos in society. He defies rules and morals, thriving in that chaos, and he rejects structure and prefers to walk in his own path. The thing is, the only thing that I'm going to try to avoid is the whole shine brightest when stirring up chaos in society. He's doing this for a reason. And he is against the healthcare system. He is against a lot of the systemic problems that they're finding themselves in. However, it's not to the degree of malicious intent. I do have him as an introvert. He's gone through enough. So he's kind of to himself. And this will play a key role later on. He's also a genius. So I feel like if you're going to go down this route, you kind of have to be somewhat of a genius. You kind of have to be prepared to think quickly, think strategically. His critical thinking skills and programming skills will improve quickly, which he will need. So hopefully that does serve him well. We don't have too much to choose from. I didn't want to do malicious because of the fact that his it would imply that he finds fun in making people feel awkward. That's not the case. Again, this is kind of a crime for good Robin Hood-esque vibe that we're going to go for. His ambition is going to be a famous hacker. So he's going to do the whole life of crime thing. So that's why we have it under the social disorder. But instead of a notorious villain, which again I think is like anti-Robin Hood, I'm going to go the famous hacker route, where he's going to try to spread malicious code on the internet to gain money and stuff like that. But he, fingers crossed, is planning to stop. And then desired life, I found this really, really important for his storyline. Is a life of freedom. He wants to live without external constraints or restrictions. He values personal freedom and autonomy. Everything has been happening to him and his loved ones that I think he's going to really want to wish for a full autonomous route for himself where he can finally be more in control of not only what's happening to him, but his outcomes. Fingers crossed. So yeah, so this is the overall family tree that we're going to have minus these two. And this is where we're going to start. So the place I've decided to house the family is in Bliss Bay over at the Heaven Hill Apartments. This apartment was previously occupied, but I did evict them. But I think it would be a perfect kind of shabbier starter home for them right now. So keep in mind, we do still have the parents. We will do a cheat to get them out. But just to start with, I wanted to just secure a living space for them. So let's head over to their property. So this is kind of what the place looks like right now. It's a little small, a little cramped. You can see they have kind of some beat up appliances, but I'm going to update this a little bit as well. So let's do a quick family cheat, and then also we're going to rebuild, kind of do an update here. So if you haven't tried this yet, you can enable cheats here under the CAZ advice panel. You click enable cheats and then you start with Control-Shift-C. And if you click the view cheat guide, you can see a lot of different ones that show up on the Play Inzoi Cheats website. So I recommend you give that a try if you haven't tried that before. What we first need to do is get the number, the Zoi ID, in order to remove any Zois first. So I believe that cheat is show Zoi info true. That way you can get the exact ID number of who you want to do any sort of manipulation on. So I need to remember this number for both Jack and then later on for Evelyn. We are going to remove them as a way to kind of simulate their death. This can only be used on Zoids who are children or older. So the cheat for that is remove Zoi and then the Zoi ID number. So we're going to do 18,519. So Jack has now passed. And then we're going to do it again. Remove Zoi 18,521 for Evelyn. So let's close that and see if that worked. Oh, they're actively passing away right now. The reason why I wanted to do it this way is because I wanted it to be in the history of Evelyn has passed away. She has met an abrupt but peaceful death. So this is why I wanted to do it. This Zoi will keep all the experiences and love they enjoyed while they were alive, and they will be remembered as a noble soul that is ready for the afterlife. I wanted the history and family tree of the parents to stay within the storyline. Does that make sense? On to the afterlife. And then same thing for Jack, on to the afterlife. Okay, so let me first clear show Zoi info false to get rid of those. Okay, misery. Okay, so both of our characters are going to be really, really upset for quite a while, unfortunately. Where did Grandma go? Oh, she's right here. Let's go ahead and also switch up this room. So I'm okay with the bathroom. I want this room to be a little bit bigger. This one will be grandmother's room. And then the dining room, I need to just make a couple adjustments too. And I think we should be good. I do like how raggedy it already kind of does look. So I don't want to make too many changes, but I do want to expand a little bit of these rooms, which I wonder if I can do. Let's see if I can manipulate the walls. Okay, so I made some adjustments. Let me just pause and do a quick tour of the place. This is their new apartment. Well, not new, but this is where they live. You have the bathroom here. This will be Miles' his room. We have a simple bed, a computer area with some bulletins, some basic decor. Again, they will not be having money like that, so we are trying to keep things as minimal as possible. And then here we have the grandmother's room, Janice's room. Again, a little bit more elevated, a little bit more thought put into it. However, still somewhat bare. She does have a photo of her late son, which is so sad. Here we have the living room. We have some mismatched furniture, an old TV, some cleaning stuff. And then over here, I kind of try to make it like a super basic, super cheap workout area. Grandma does have a yoga mat, which that's what she's into. He will be more into at least some dumbbells, but I'm going to try to get him more into the gym to build up, that muscular energy. And then back here, you have a very basic kitchen. You have a vintage refrigerator, a commercial range oven, a rice cooker, some condiments, and a nice water cooler. And then over here is their balcony, which is where they have a top loading washing machine. I might try to do a clothesline. I don't know if they could dry their clothes here, but maybe I'll install some sort of clothesline and then some trash. Again, very basic, not a lot of decor going on, but hopefully over time they can try to accumulate some things. But of course, first off, they need to clear their debt. Speaking of debt, let's stimulate what that debt could look like. So after everything, they still have about 15,000 meow dollars. So if we go back to our cheats, I don't think that there's a cheat specifically for reducing money. We have it to add money. So what I think I will try to do, if possible, is maybe have grandma donate a lot of money over a lost love. Okay, so I can't overspend, so I'm gonna have grandma come over here and just overspend until we can kind of get this number down to maybe, let's see, 3,000? Now is not the time for that. I'm gonna have her overspend twice. I don't know if anything will actually come to the house. I think maybe something, but it's not gonna be equal to 5,000. I'll tell you that. Okay, so we're down 5,000. Oh, so something is coming. Let's have her do it one more time because actually they're gonna also have a loan. When I'm sad, I tend to overspend as well. Okay, so we're down to $500. we do need to simulate a loan though. Ideally, I think I would like 10,000. Yes, so we're gonna also have them be part of a loan shark situation. So the storyline here is they didn't have much money to begin with. Grandma had to get, a hip replacement or some sort of medical emergency. But because they didn't have enough money to begin with, they will then need to find a loan shark to give them at least 10,000. After that, we'll try to repay that as much as possible. But first we need to spend this 10,000. So I'm gonna have Jack. Let's see if maybe we can buy a car. Not a scooter, not a motorbike. Do I need to get okay, a car. Okay, but let's think this through. Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and buy this car. Let's have it in this nice white. So we're gonna buy this car, purchase. So now we're officially at $574 with about 10K that we owe. And I think this is where we'll pretty much start our gameplay. Oh, first we need to get some jobs. So the last thing I want them to do, Grandma's gonna be retired because she's too old and she's retired. She's not doing this. For Miles, we're gonna get him as a West Side hustler in crime, basically. However, he's gonna tell his grandma that no, I'm working part-time elsewhere at Golden Burger or something. But we're gonna have him be a West Side hustler. He's gonna be working 3 days a week for about $360 a day, and then hopefully work his way up. So let's take a look at their schedule real quick and just see. Yeah, he has worked those days. How did he already have one attempt on his criminal record? Okay. And then Grandma, she just has things going on. On Wednesdays, he really has to pretend like he was there at some point. One other thing I did want to do is adjust some of their skills, because to me, I don't think it's quite realistic to start at 0 skills all around. Does TV not work? Okay, so I'm gonna do some cheats real quick for their skills. So I do want for Grandma, so let's start with Grandma actually. The cheat for this is set skill level, the skill ID, and then the level that you want. I believe the levels are 1 through 10, but we're not gonna go too high. Some to make it more realistic. So for Grandma here, we're gonna have skill ID exercise 5. Cooking will also be a 5. Housework will be a 6. Let's make gardening a 2. They don't have too many plants here, but it's always something that she's liked and looked into. And handcraft, which is like handiwork, 3. And lastly, baking pastry, which is the baking skill. Let's make that a 3. Let's see if this took. Okay, and you can see here from the skills that it took. So now we're going to do the same for Miles. Miles, I would like to set the charm, charm, which is charisma, to like a 2. He's not, I don't want to make him overly charming. However, a lot of people who commit crimes and can get away with it, they kind of need some level of charisma, to talk their way out of it. I will also set his logic to 2. Keep in mind, he is significantly younger than his grandma, so that's why I'm keeping things quite low, so we have time to progress through it. Programming, we're going to keep it at a 1. Crime, we will actually make that like a 2. Because he's not new to the game, but he could use some work. I think for him right now, I will keep it at that. You can see here that it took, so that's good. And yeah, there you have it. We have officially set up our game for this Crime for Good Let's Play. So I hope you stick around and enjoy. I will be uploading. Oh my god, look at all these packages from all of her overspending. We will get into all of this shortly. I hope you join me for the first Let's Play episode. I believe we're going to try to aim for about 3 or 4 episodes. I have a lot of goals that I want to accomplish. Miles and his grandmother, and hopefully getting them out of this apartment to maybe somewhere you would want your grandma to live and with money to spend and not overspend. Is their refrigerator haunted? Oh my god, there's so much we need to get into. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.